أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. O Lord, show us the good as good and help us to follow it and stay with it, and show us falsehood as falsehood and help us to stay away from it with your mercy, O merciful one. وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Ameen. Welcome everyone. We are continuing on today with the second ray, the first station on page 23, again page 23 of the rays, third fruit. This fruit looks to conscious beings and particularly to man. Through the mystery of divine unity among all creatures, man may attain to their highest perfections and become the most valuable fruit of the universe. The most perfect and refined of creatures, the most fortunate and happy of animate beings, and the addressee and friend of the world's creator. Yes, we read this last time, so it's a good place to start off with in terms of really we need to work on becoming addressee and friend of the world's creator. So we are today picking up from the second station.
Okay.
Was it? All right, just give a moment, please. Thank you. So second station on page 27 of the rays again. The second station of the rays, page 27. There are incalculable proofs necessitating in absolutely certain form, divine unity, and the affirmation of it. There are incalculable proofs necessitating in absolutely certain form, divine unity, and the affirmation of it, which neither accept nor permit the association of partners with God. Which neither accept nor permit the association of partners with God. Since hundreds and perhaps thousands of these are demonstrated in detail in the Risale-i Nur, here only 3 of them, which necessitate divine unity, will be set out briefly. The first, according to the testimony of the wise and discerning acts which are to be observed in the universe, creatures are made through the limitless attributes and names of an all-wise sovereign, one perfect and mighty, whose knowledge and power are absolute. According to the testimony of the wise and discerning acts which are to be observed in the universe, creatures are made through the limitless attributes and names of an all-wise sovereign, one perfect and mighty, whose knowledge and power are absolute. Yes, it may be surmised, certainly from the works in the universe, that their maker possesses sovereignty and rulership at the degree of absolute dominicality, and grandeur and magnificence at the degree of absolute might, and perfection and self-sufficiency at the degree of absolute godhead. And that his activity and rule are absolutely without restriction or limit. His activity and rule are absolutely without restriction or limit. These are understood clearly and are visible As for sovereignty, grandeur, perfection, self-sufficiency, absoluteness, comprehensiveness, unrestrictedness, and unlimitedness, they necessitate unity and are opposed to partnership. As for sovereignty, grandeur, perfection, self-sufficiency, absoluteness, comprehensiveness, unrestrictedness, and unlimitedness, they necessitate unity and are opposed to partnership. The testimony to unity of sovereignty and rulership. This has been proved with complete certainty in numerous places in the Risale-i Nur. A brief summary is as follows. The mark of rulership is independence, solitariness, and the rejection of interference. The mark of rulership is independence, solitariness, and the rejection of interference. Rulership necessitates these. Due to only a shadow of rulership, impotent men, even who by their natures are in need of assistance, reject the interference of others, and preserve their independence. It is for this reason that there cannot be two kings in a country, or two governors of a province, two mayors of a town, or even two headmen of a village. If there are two of any of these, it leads to chaos. Rebellions break out and law and order are overturned. Since a mere shadow of rulership in impotent man, needy of assistance, repels the partnership and interference. Since a mere shadow of rulership in impotent man, needy of assistance, repels the partnership and interference of others to this extent, surely the rulership, which is in the form of dominicality of an absolutely powerful one, free of all impotence, will in no way accept any partners or interference. Since a mere shadow of rulership in impotent man, needy of assistance, repels the partnership and interference of others to this extent, surely the rulership, which is in the form of dominicality of an absolutely powerful one, free of all impotence, will in no way accept any partners or interference. He will reject it vehemently and angrily repulse from his court and angrily repulse from his court those who ascribe imaginary partners to him. The All-Wise Quran's severe threats against those who ascribe partners to God arise from this truth. The testimony to unity of grandeur, magnificence, and glory. This too has been explained with brilliant proofs in the Risale-i Nur, and here a very brief meaning of it is alluded to. For example, the magnificence and grandeur of the sun's light leave no need for any weak lights near to it, nor does its light allow any other light an effect. The magnificence and grandeur of the sun's light leave no need for any weak lights near to it, nor does its light allow any other light an effect. Similarly, the magnificence and immensity of divine power leave no need for any other force or power, and afford no other power a true effect or ability to create, especially living and conscious beings, which are the points on which all the dominical aims in the universe turn and where they are concentrated. Especially living and conscious beings, which are the points on which of all the dominical aims in the universe turn, and where they are concentrated, it is impossible that they should be referred to others. It is also in no way possible that the fruits, results, and circumstances of man's creation and of living beings, which are the origin of innumerable sorts of bounties, and where the aims of their creation are manifested, should be referred to other hands. For example, it would be an affront to the magnificence of dominicality for an animate being to be truly grateful to anyone other than Almighty God. It would be an affront to the magnificence of dominicality for an animate being to be truly grateful to anyone other than Almighty God for being healed from some minor ailment, or for some sustenance, or for guidance, and to praise and applaud the person extravagantly. The grandeur of the Godhead would be offended, the dignity of the absolute object of worship affronted, and his glory vexed. We can stop here for now and look into what is the author presenting to us, and how can we apply the case to our existence right now. I'll just share out just my immediate impressions. It's really letting me know about being careful with how I live here, in terms of I need to be watchful in what do I attribute the power to give existence to. So I think just to avoid the whole concept of partnership as in defines anything, even with the awareness that yes, the universe must have a creator, and I'm also part of the universe, I must have a creator, but how conscious and aware am I of my interactions here? Because yeah, ascribing partnership to something won't help me, or it should put my relationship with the source of my existence into questions. And it's a beautiful example that the author gives, and also in other parts of his writing, about you cannot have two pilots, right? There's either a pilot and a co-pilot. So imagine somebody, you have two people operating an aircraft, for example. One has to be like the main pilot, and the other one works in harmony with the pilot, and hence co-pilot example. But he gives examples of two kings in a country. I think we can all make sense of it with our day-to-day and what we observe in the civilization. It's pretty obvious. And yeah, that's just briefly something immediate that came by. But let's see what others have to say in terms of how did you understand this piece, and how can we make sense of it, perhaps going step by step, point by point.
Yeah, so this is basically a continuation of what we've been discussing when we started the race about the affirmation of divine unity. And in this particular section, as you were summarizing it, of course, there are certain qualities that are being observed in the universe. And the focus that the author is presenting is of how all these qualities demand that there must be, or requires that they must be coming from the same source, or necessitate unity. And the focus of sovereignty and rulership. So everything that we are witnessing, that we are looking at, the creatures as they are showing in the universe, what the universe shows to us is showing all these different qualities that are there, and all these qualities can only be coming or tied to one who possesses or owns those qualities to their absolute potential, maximum absolute potential, so that sovereignty and rulership at the degree of absolute dominicality, as he was saying. Yes. So I'm highlighting that part. Yes, very surmised and the works in the universe that their maker possesses sovereignty and rulership at the degree of absolute dominicality and grandeur and magnificence at the degree of absolute might, and perfection and self-sufficiency at the degree of absolute godhead, and that his activity and rule are absolutely without restriction or limit. So all those qualities of absoluteness, perfection, sovereignty, creatorship, all those must be at the only an absolute being can possess that. That's what it necessitates, and there's no room for any partnership. So, and then the example, as you were making also, the example the book uses also is, even for the impotent human being who's in need, if he's given certain responsibility, it's even he would not accept certain partnerships in his rulership. He may assign to some other task, but in terms of the sovereignty or rulership, impotent man also wants to keep that. So how, when it comes to the absolute being and any notion of partnership, how would that be, when it comes to if we understand the absoluteness of the being, because impotent man himself or herself is not able to accept such partnership.
That's a good point. So thank you for sharing your insights into this as well. So pretty much what the author is helping us do here is to help me understand my conclusion of when I conclude something to be absolute, as in there must be a necessarily existent one who by nature is absolute, as in not of the nature of this universe. So what does it all entails? And that I can only, I don't want to say maybe grasp or get to know through my own state of being as well. So like even with my interactions, so for example, if I'm interacting with anything in a worldly sense, imagine like an institution having like two presidents or managers. Oh God, number one and number two. It's just it's chaos even for myself. Who do I go to now? You, right? So we all need like one ruler as well, like even within institutions or in general. So even if I feel, I don't want to. I feel like unease with this kind of situation. So if whatever I conclude to be an absolute source, just I can apply that case or that understanding within it as well. So if I conclude something to be absolute, that's it. There's no partnership of any kind at all. That's just I think if we want to be at ease with even our conclusions, so I think it's helpful to have this notion of what is it that I experience with things, and how would that apply, or how is that parallel or in line with my source of existence, or that which I conclude to be absolute. So helpful on the
Yeah, and how does that understanding change my living here? That everything is under the control of an absolute source. So every attribution, every quality that we, belongs, goes back to the owner. Like the rulership and sovereign. So if you're maybe those small kind of rulers, or mayor of a town, or the president of a country, or certain organizations, and versus some rulership in terms of what my human side is looking for, the absolute ownership. So everything just becomes not that important.
True. So that makes sense, even how the author also break down this text, the testimony to unity of sovereignty and rulership. So how do I witness to this? So within my own feelings and emotions, like how we brought up last week, where we have to really apply the case to our own, whatever's going on within ourselves. Definitely we observe things around us, but at the end of the day, everything is happening within us. So how do I bring all my conclusions, observation, and everything within myself, so as to testify within myself of this absolute sovereignty and rulership? Go ahead,
Brother Ali, please go ahead.
Well, thank you. I think the text is clear as long as we understand that as this text, the first, we read under the subtitle of first, according to the testimony of the wise and discerning acts which are to be observed in the universe. So the power and mighty and the knowledge of the creator of this universe, which is absolute, and all the argument, I think, follows this premise that if the creator of the universe, under the testimony of the witnessings, or the things everything is a witness in the universe, is absolute, the creator is absolute, then the argument goes on that it doesn't have any partner, it doesn't have anybody to help you. That is, as we discussed, and two of you, it is understood to me. So what I wanted to add is an addition to it, as the text towards the end of the text we read today. Everything turns to him. It means as if there was a partner, when you read the text, as it is stated literally, the creator will feel offended if somebody, or anything assigned as a partner to him, as if speaking from God's perspective, saying that he will be offended. I don't think no one will think about it in this way, that he will be offended. Of course, we understand that this is from our perspective. It means we have to be careful by assigning partners to him, to the absolute being, or seeing in practical terms that anything in this universe which has a kind of position of creatorship, ownership, or dominion, a small dominion, a small dominion. For example, a cell, it is very important to speak about the cell nowadays, especially the people use cell is acting on its own because of something as if it is intelligent. Some elements in it, uh, as they observe it, they are acting on their own and they select the best position, seems to be. Yeah, correct. That's how they are created. So they are created in this way that the universe will uh, produce the creation will produce new type of creatures in the world. That is why the cell is arranged in such a way by its creator. But let's say, yes, the universe is created by God from the beginning, everything established by God from the beginning, and order is perfect there. Now the order is working on its own, and the things within the order of the universe, within the universe, acts on their own capacity, although the capacity is given to the things by the absolute being. I think we have to concentrate on this approach, which seems or which sounds like innocent. Because yeah, I'm not denying God. I know that He is absolute. He's an Almighty One. He created the whole universe. I'm not saying no, but the order is created by Him, established by Him. I'm not denying any of this because I cannot really attribute the source of existence of the order to anything else than the Creator. Now, most of the people think this in this way. But while they are studying how the things are growing, developing, or the solar system, for example, simple, very simple. I don't know more sophisticated example than this. The solar system is working now as it is set, like set machine. It is classically known as clock example, not the digital ones. You wind classical clocks uh, and then it works on its own without interference of its maker. That is what we have to be very careful. I didn't say the clock created itself. I didn't say that the clock is really arranging itself. The order of the clock is also produced by itself. No, no. I can use the sarcastic language. God forbid. I am a believer. But the clock is working on its own now. That is a classical view. Now, people say that this is very well known, I don't know, 17th or the 16th, 15th century physics or interpretation of the nature, the creation. They were believing in God, but they thought that the universe is working now as it is set by God. And traditional Christianity and Judaism didn't have any problem with this understanding. But later on, uh, the understanding of the people and philosophers changed. And nowadays, they say, no, no, we don't accept Newtonian physics, etc. But they do the same thing. Two kinds, of course, two ways are operating now. One of them says, no, no, there is no God at all. Okay, we discard them because they just say the universe exists eternally by itself. It doesn't make sense. And most of the people don't buy in it. But but the new generation may be brainwashed in the school, but later on they understand that, oh, it is impossible, man, that it will happen by itself. Anyways, the majority of the people in the world say that we believe in God, but the things are operating as God set them. And it is very famous that this understanding of traditional Christian understanding of God, that he rests now. It is the seventh day in Judaism, sabbatical leave. Now God is on sabbatical leave now. He worked 6 days. The seventh day, on Saturday, they say, I don't know how true it is, according to their tradition, it is resting. The Christianity changed it as an opposition, actually, to Sunday as a resting day. In Islam, not the Quran, not the Prophet, but Muslims turn Friday into a Sabbath. Thank you. Somebody corrected me. They say it on academic, they say sabbatical, the professor is on sabbatical leave. It must work hard now. 1 year he will just retire to his home and work there comfortably. Anyway, the language is Sabbath. So we made Friday as a Sabbath day. We did it, not the Quran, not the prophetic tradition at all. The prophetic tradition never left anything that God rests or this understanding. And also, people also should rest on Friday. No. Only Friday prayer time should be allotted to prayer time only. No work while you are praying. That's it. And then Quran says spread. It means it is a consciousness, believer's consciousness, that the Creator does not really need any resting. It is an absolute being, and he holds the control of the universe continuously, constantly, and that is how the universe is coming into existence through the will of the Creator. And according to us, every moment is his act, according to us. For him, there is no every moment, but we cannot say every moment for the absolute being. We have to make this distinction, and we have to be very careful not to assign this kind of belief mixed with as if the things are independently acting now, independently from God's control or creatorship, acting now on its own according to the order God established, and the order automatically renewing itself. That is what we have to be careful. If it was so, although let's say, I don't know whether I can make an example for this. I don't know. I cannot think of a very good example to make the distinction between let's say, okay, maybe this one works. A doctor. What the doctor does, doctor's ability is given to doctor created as he is now by God, the Creator. Okay. The medicine is created by God. Okay. Although the pharmaceutical factories produced it, but let's assume that, to make the example simple, the source of existence of the medicine is God as well. But now the doctor is acting to create me with the capacity God gave him. I don't know whether that's a good example or not, but at least makes the difference. Healer healing system is established in the creation, but now the doctor is applying it to me, so that I have to be thankful to doctor, but knowing that the creation of the doctor and the medicine belongs to God, but application of it belongs to the doctor. I don't know whether it's a good example. You will correct it if or complete it. That's why we have to be careful here. Why is it important? Because I may divide, the partnership is there. My thank, my appreciation may be divided between God as the source of existence of the things and the doctor who is operating. What is the significance of who is actively operating, and the difference between, and no, the healing is created directly by God, but doctor is only choosing by using his free will, selecting from one to other option, which is already created in the universe. I don't know, it is this is splitting the hair, or really it is very important. So seeing the doctor as only a means according to the causal chain, that according to the order, but doesn't have, the doctor does not have any interference in the creation of health. Only the vehicle employed by the creator, but he is using his free will. That's why I have to be thankful to the doctor by using his free will in the right way that he has to choose. But whole source of existence of health must belong to the absolute creator of the universe, whether it helps or not. So I have to be thankful to the absolute creator of the universe for being the source of health in it is every stage of the process. But I have to thank the doctor as a person who used his free will in the right way, because he learned it with the ability God gave him. So I have to appreciate his choice, not interference. And having a small share, it is exactly the same in the action of the cell. The cell has no free will, nothing. So human beings have free will. They choose from among the created options. Cell has no free will, and cell doesn't choose among the already existing creation in the order of the universe, the cell. So cell is completely cell completely is under the control, creatorship, power, knowledge of the creator. Whatever is happening there, if you carefully study what is going on there, cell, any part of the cell is only acting according to the order, but not as a result of its choice. But it is created in this way. It means every part of every single ingredients of the cell is being created within the order of the universe, then human beings may perceive it as if cell is following the order. Cell is not following the order. Although, practically speaking, we say cell's actions are subject to the order, but it doesn't mean that cell has an independent free choice like a doctor. So we don't thank cell at all, although we thank the doctor. That is the difference. What we say, I am thankful to the creator of the cell, creator of the motions of the cell, creator of the cell within a perfect, appropriate harmony of the order so that I can understand the absolute power of the Creator manifesting and operating everywhere, even in the smallest parts of the cell, is direct under his control. That is called really Tawhid or oneness of God, unity of God, as we have been studying now. Thank you.
And Jazakallah khair for sharing this very important point that we need to really live by, because I think we all know theory-wise that nothing is independently acting on its own. Everything is very much connected in terms of how things are set up in the universe, where anything has its constituent part. One cannot act without the other. So it's this whole divine unity notion definitely going on, and we can make sense of it. However, when it comes to human interactions, I think we may fail to see the absoluteness of the source of existence in it, because we are quick to jump to conclusions about, even knowing that everything is brought into existence by an absolute source of existence. But this element of human free will is also brought into existence in terms of it is also part of the order set by the orderer. So human beings are just utilizing their choice in the way that is good or appropriate. And so I think it's a very important reminder, at least for me, to just be very careful, because a lot of our interactions are human to human interactions. And I easily get lost with, how something happens, like a decision is being made, although I know that right now, for just one moment to come into existence, the whole universe is coming into existence, and decisions or people's choices are also part of this order. And so if there's something that does not meet my expectation, then I should connect this back to the source of my existence, rather than criticizing the person, for misusing their free will because it's not according to my expectation. And people may be using their free will in the right way, but it's not according to my expectation. And so that's where I err or fall into misguidance for myself. So that's very, alhamdulillah, thank you for sharing this. And also, even with things that don't have free will of their own, like you give the example of the smallest particle, even that, we get lost also. As a scientist, you're just researching, you're getting mesmerized excited with, wow, look at this, and this movement, it does this, it meets up with the other cell, this is how it's happening, even within this conversation or reasoning, it can be devoid of a source of existence. So even within this area, because there's my human free will, which is also interpreting what I'm observing, so I can also easily fall into, this particle is brought into existence. It's given its qualities. It cannot acquire it on its own. It's, it's being acted upon by something absolute, not of the nature of this universe. And look how it's doing this. Look how it's moving around here. And again, how do you explain this movement? Is it freely operating, or it's under a command of an absolute source? So, Alhamdulillah, that was awesome. Do you want to add a little something?
So this reminds me of like an example of, for example, a farmer, or like if I have a garden and I plant some seeds and some fruit, some onions, some potatoes, some tomatoes, and I say, hey, look, I grew this, right? That's what the language is. Like I grew all this in my beautiful vegetable garden, fruit garden. Is it really? I just followed whatever is there already existing, and I did not give any, even my actions, my movements, and is all
no contribution,
all exercise of free will. But who is the actual actor behind all those? Yeah. Exactly.
That's a good point, actually. Like I did not contribute anything to the existence of it, but
so in my work, if somebody is a doctor or an engineer or whatever, they're acting and they're exercising their free will all the time, but who is actually giving existence to each and every motion, act, movement of the hands, of everything?
It's a good point. Maybe I'll, inshallah, implement this in our practical lives, because I feel that at least I'm personally also guilty with all this, whatever we're doing in our day-to-day. So I think it's a very important point to keep in mind, inshallah. Okay. Let's check in to see if anyone else wants to add any comments to what has been shared thus far. Feel free to raise your hand at any time. Otherwise, let's move on to the next paragraph. Let's read up how perfection points to the mystery of unity, inshallah. All right, so bismillah. How perfection points to the mystery of unity. Again, this has been explained with brilliant proofs in the Risale-i Nur, and an extremely brief meaning of it is this: self-evidently, the creation of the heavens and earth necessitate an absolute power of utter perfection. The creation of the heavens and earth necessitate an absolute power of utter perfection. The wondrous bodily systems of animate beings also necessitate a power of absolute perfection. And the perfection of an absolute power, which is exempt from impotence and free of restriction, necessitates unity. And the perfection of an absolute power, which is exempt from impotence and free of restriction, necessitates unity. For to apply defect to perfection and restrict the unrestricted, and to make infinity finite, and reduce the strongest power to the weakest impotence, means making an infinite power finite. With something finite at a time, it is infinite, and this is utterly impossible in 5 ways. Let's read this one more time. So And the perfection of an absolute power, which is exempt from impotence and free of restriction, necessitates unity. So that which I conclude to be an absolute source, it is exempt from impotence, as the one that's giving existence to something is not in need to be given existence, and it's free from restriction that I myself and the universe are subject to. And so, and free of restriction, and then something which is free of restriction necessitates unity. Not that much clear, but let's see what the next sentence has to say. So, for to apply defect to perfection. Oh, okay. So if something which I deem to be perfect, if I'm saying, this is not coming maybe 100% from it, this, just the examples.
Something defect,
yeah.
Lacking.
Yeah, that the water and tree, water and sunlight are part of the order, which is how the tree is made to grow into what we observe. But if there's a but, then that's problematic. But the soil that I was using or the fertilizer, there's just something wrong going on. So then, okay. So for to apply defect to perfection and restrict the unrestricted. So that's like putting some kind of restrictions into an absolute source of existence. So, and to make infinity finite. So if that I limit it, so anything that which I conclude to be absolute or infinity, and if I come up in any of my reasoning with like but or however, this little piece is acting on its own, like with the example we gave of the cell, or like even the doctor. However, the doctor did a wonderful job. He used his free will in the right way, right? So rather than he followed the order the way it's ought to be followed. And so, and reduce the strongest power to the weakest impotence. Okay, so again, if I deem something to be an absolute source of existence, just that's it. It is might for me. It's grandeur, glory. And so, to make the strongest power to the weakest impotence means making an infinite power finite, with something finite at a time. With something finite at a time, it is okay. So with something finite, making something finite, but rather it is infinite. Okay, and this is utterly impossible in 5 ways. And okay, all right, alhamdulillah, this is great. However, I still am wondering about what the author means by this part. So something which is free of restriction necessitates unity, as in it's gonna employ things to work in harmony. Necessitates unity. If like a ruler or something that's a governing body is going to employ its associates to work for it.
Yeah, so this section is about perfection. Looking at the perfection, how the wondrous bodily system, let me read this. The wondrous bodily systems of animate beings also necessitate a power of absolute perfection, and the perfection of an absolute power which is exempt from impotence and free of restriction necessitates unity. And I see Brother Ali has his hand up. Please go ahead.
Since we are going to read the testimonies to unit of unrestrictedness, comprehensiveness, and infinity, yes, the case will be explained in further details. Well, I'm being patient and I'm waiting for these paragraphs to read or the following pages to read. Anyways, but what I said when I read this introductory paragraph, I said I have to be careful because in our practical life, we are careful not to attribute, especially those people who believe in God. Now, mostly we are using those people who believe in God. But because the argument is not that whether the creator exists or not. In this section, it always say that it is proven or it is demonstrated in the Risale-i Nur. Risale-i Nur goes back to the previous volumes. But here, the author's intention, I am guessing, is that to establish that, yes, it is easy to say that there is a creator, there must be a creator. I am sure of it. It is quite easy. And the universe is obvious and evidence for it. But our problem, which is called in the language of the Quran, shirk, our problem is not really applying the creatorship of the universe in every aspect of the universe, in every aspect of the things happening in this world. For example, if you ask me as a person who said, yeah, there must be a creator, I understand, of course, otherwise impossible to explain the things around me. Okay, I say the orange is created by God. Oh, of course, he is the creator, of course. But orange itself goes bad. Hmm? Now, when we think something, some defect in the creation, it according to our expectations, the defects are according to our expectations. Very simple example. Everybody says there is a baby who has no arm, or there is only one arm. The other one wasn't really developed and short. Maybe didn't wasn't really there. Only one arm. I don't know whether it is possible or not, or it has been observed or not. An example, just a simple example. And we may get really very much disappointed because our expectations are not met. We are used to seeing human beings with two hands and perfectly operating, and nothing is really lacking. So what we say, either we accuse God, the creator, as if he has not really made it perfect according to our expectations, because the subject is what? We need an absolute power of utter perfection. Now, I think the power is not that perfect. Sometimes it falls short to make everything perfect. That's why when we use the language as people who believe in God, look at the universe is perfect. We hear a lot of objection, lots of voice coming up from the other side who don't believe in God. They say, if the universe was perfect, yeah, we wouldn't exist as an aging and at the end dying human beings. If the universe was perfect, the wars should not happen. If the universe was perfect, the illness shouldn't really be out there. And we can practically use that God created the orange in our practical daily language. Orange is rotting. Now, God created the human in the perfect fashion, okay, but some people are not perfect. But we may be aware of it or not, as if it infers that it is creation is not perfect. That's what we have to pay attention in order to grasp the full meaning of oneness of God or unity of God, unity of the absolute being, which is called in the language of the Quran absoluteness, tawheed. Make God the only one, the creator. Nothing else is what tawheed is, making one. Wahada, making one in our understanding. It may have some defect there if we say that some things are not really perfect. Of course, according to our expectations, I was expecting a person, a human being, to be with two hands. Now, the confusion, we have to be careful. Yes, okay, with two hands. But here, a baby is born with one hand. This is not perfect. What should I be very careful? According to my accustomed way of seeing human being, it is not fitting to my accustomed way of expectation of a baby to be created. That is correct. Yeah, that is my expectation. I am accustomed with seeing human beings with two hands, not four hands. Then my perfection of understanding is a person who has two hands. But now the baby is born with one hand. I may say, I must be very careful that that is not according to my expectations. But if I am not careful about this distinction, whether it is according to my expectations, my way of my accustomed way of seeing human beings with two hands, or the power of the creator was not perfect in order to make it with two hands. I have to be very careful. The orange is created by God perfectly. Okay, I agree with it. But the orange is deteriorating now, and it is using it is perfection either by itself or because God left it alone so that it is deteriorating itself. I have to be very careful. That is a repetition. I use this example, and you must also have the same understanding. I'm sure you do, all of you. The creation of the orange is perfect, but at the same time getting rotting orange. It means deteriorating of orange according to my expectation needs also an absolutely powerful and absolutely the one who has absolute power and perfection is creating it in this form. It means rotten form. That is his action. Nothing in the universe can act on its own in order to get rot. Because perfect fresh orange needs a perfect creator or the perfect power. Rotten orange equally needs a perfect power to come into existence. No one can create, give existence to the process of rotting. Nothing in the universe. It is the act of the power of perfection, absolute power of perfection, that it is created in a rotting position. I think we have to bear in mind and then read the following text accordingly. That's I felt to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Ali, for sharing your comment on that. It makes perfect sense, and I think it will be a good idea to proceed further. Thank you. The testimonies to unity of unrestrictedness, comprehensiveness, and infinity. Unrestrictedness, comprehensiveness, and infinity. This too has been mentioned in detail in the treatises of the illuminating lamp. A summary of its meaning is as follows. Since by spreading pervasively around their own works, the acts in the universe all show that they are comprehensive and unrestricted, unlimited and absolute. And since partners and participation place a restriction on the comprehensiveness and unrestrictedness and limit the unlimitedness, destroying their nature and reality. Destroying their nature and reality. Most certainly, partnership in those acts which are absolute and comprehensive is impossible and precluded. Yes, the very nature of unrestrictedness is opposed to partnership. For its meaning, even in finite, material, and limited things, is to spread, pervade, and permeate everywhere. For example, if air, light, and heat, and even water manifested unrestrictedness, they would spread everywhere. Since this aspect of unrestrictedness makes physical and limited things invasive, even if they are particular, surely true, universal unrestrictedness would afford such encompassment and pervasiveness to attributes that were both infinite and free of matter and unlimited and free of defect, that there could be no possibility whatsoever of their accepting any partners or partnership. Since this aspect of unrestrictedness makes physical and limited things invasive, even if they are particular, surely true universal unrestrictedness would afford such encompassment and pervasiveness to attributes that were both infinite and free of matter and unlimited and free of defect, that there could be no possibility whatsoever of their accepting any partners or partnership. In short, both the sovereignty and the grandeur and the perfection and the comprehensiveness and the unrestrictedness and the infinity of the thousands of general acts and the hundreds of divine names whose manifestations are to be seen in the universe are extremely powerful proofs of divine unity and the affirmation of it. Also, a superior force wants to overrun its surroundings in order to become activated, scattering other forces. Similarly, it is apparent from all the works of dominicality and manifestations of the names of the Godhead that their forces are so extraordinarily overwhelming that if it were not for general sovereignty and absolute justice, which prevent them, they would have overrun all beings. For example, is it at all possible that the universal power which creates all the poplar trees on the earth and administers them should not take under its control the individual trees like walnut, apple, and apricot, which have become interspersed among the poplars, and not regulate them and dominate them, or that it should hand them over to other forces? Yes, in all species of creatures, and even in each individual, a governing force and power are felt, which clearly have the capacity to overrun the whole universe and subjugate all beings. Certainly, such a power would not accept partners to any sort, nor permit partnership. Also, for the owner of a fruit-bearing tree, the matter of greatest importance is the fruit at the tips of the tree's branches and for future planting, the seeds in the hearts of its fruits, rather, that are the hearts of its fruits. If the tree's owner has any sense, he will not make his ownership go for nothing by handing over the fruits to someone else. In exactly the same way, the elements, which are the branches of the tree called the universe, and the plants and animals, which are at the tips of the elements, are like the flowers and leaves of the tree, and human beings, which are the topmost of the leaves and flowers. The owner of the tree would in no way hand over to other forces the worship and thanks of those fruits, which are their most important fruits and the result of their creation, and especially their hearts, the all-encompassing seeds of the fruits and their faculties of memory, which are known as the outer heart, so negating the sovereignty of his dominicality and canceling all his fitness to be worshipped. Also, since the aims of dominicality are centered in the particulars at the extremities of the sphere of contingency and multiplicity, and even in the states and circumstances of those particulars, and since they are the source of the thanks, gratitude, and worship, which are extended and look to the one true object of worship. For sure, he would not hand them over to others and so nullify his wisdom, and by nullifying his wisdom, annul his godhead. For the most important dominical aim in the creation of beings is to make himself known to conscious beings and loved and praised and extolled, and to attract their gratitude to himself. It is because of this subtle mystery that in order to demonstrate that the bounties and acts, universal and particular, at the extremities of the sphere of multiplicity, like sustenance, healing, and particularly guidance and belief, which result in thanks, worship, gratitude, love, praise, and worship, are directly the works, bounties, gifts, and acts of the universe's creator, the monarch of all beings. The Quran of Miraculous Exposition repeatedly ascribes sustenance, guidance, and healing to the necessarily existent one, stating that the bestowal of them is his alone and restricted to him, and strongly rejecting the interference of others. Yes, the one who bestows the bounty of belief, which wins for a person an abode of bliss, can surely only be the one who creates the abode of bliss and makes belief the key to it. It could only be his bounty. Nobody could shut up this largest window opening onto the true object of worship by bestowing an equally great bounty. No one could block up this most important means to him or steal it. Footnote: for example, God is the provider, the firm possessor of strength. Quran chapter 51, verse 58. God is the provider, the firm possessor of strength. In short, the most particular events and fruits at the tips of the tree of creation testify to divine unity and the affirmation of it in two ways. Firstly, the aims of dominicality in the universe are gathered together in those fruits and events, and their aims are centered on them. And most of the manifestation of the divine names and their determinations and the results of and benefits in the creation of beings are gathered together in them. In this respect, each of them therefore declares, I am the property, act, and work of the one who created the whole universe. The second way, since the hearts of those particular fruits as well as man's memory, which in a hadith is called the outer heart, are concise indexes of most species of beings and small maps of them, and bear the meaning of seeds of the tree of the universe, and are subtle mirrors of most of the divine names. And since hearts and memories, which are all similar and bear the same stem, spread pervasively throughout the universe, they look to the one who holds the whole universe in the grasp of his power, and they each declare, I'm the work and art of him alone. To conclude, with regard to its benefits, a fruit looks to its tree's owner. A fruit looks to its tree's owner. With regard to its seeds, it looks to all the parts, members, and nature of the tree. And with regard to the stem on its face, it gazes on all the fruits of the tree, whose stem is the same. Together they declare, we are all the same, and we have one maker. We are the property of a single person. Whoever made one of us made all of us. In exactly the same way, in regard to the stems on the faces of the living creatures at the extremities of the sphere of multiplicity, and especially the stems on man's face and his index-like heart, and the results of his nature and his being a fruit, they look directly to the one who holds the whole universe in the grasp of his power and testify to his unity. Okay, so I think we can stop here for now with the reading of the text and just share out briefly what the author is helping us do here. Does anyone want to share their immediate impressions? Anything that stood out to you?
Do you want to talk about?
So let's. I don't know, is anybody okay? This example that he gives of air, light, heat, water manifested on page 29. So if out of everything we see in creation, the laws or anything, if they are acting not on their own but by a divine command, so since this aspect of unrestrictedness, in what unrestrictedness? So I don't know. I don't know. What I'm taking away is what I observe in terms of the order in the universe, even if I may come across something which I'm not accustomed to, then it's attributing or sort of projecting like a defect or default within the order. Rather, everything is free of defect, even like a particle, which is subject to the order, is operating or coming into existence in a way that is that is that is how it is made. Go ahead. Yes,
No. So the example, for example, these elements of air, light, heat, and water, as he gives, they're spread out, and they're like invasive. They go all over the place. Okay. You look at the light of the sun, how it spreads to the whole earth. And water, if you just let it flow, it kind of spreads, and there are certain plants that become invasive plants. So even those that seem like as if they are
restricted,
just continuing, they're going and spreading. That is also unlimited, governed and administered by someone who must be absolute and unrestricted.
Okay, somebody has a hand up.
So Hale, please go ahead.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Yeah, along what Asim was saying. So testimonies to unity of unrestrictedness, comprehensiveness, and infinity, essentially saying that the testimony to his unity or absoluteness is this universe, or to his comprehensiveness is this universe, to his infinitum, I guess, to say is this universe. And the most apparent thing, really, for any human being are his works, his acts of creation, and they are pervasive. In other words, while being particular or limited, so he's the example, air, light, and heat, or water. They may be, particular or have some sort of what we can say. We can quantify them, put them in some sort of finite limit. I have a glass of water, or I can confine light to a room, but the testimony to his absoluteness is in that those same things, if permitted to spread everywhere, will spread everywhere. So like the sun, so out in, let's say, space, for example, in the solar system, the sun shines light in all directions, as far as the eye can see. And those are physical things, as he's saying. By their very nature, they're limited. The sun is a finite creation. But if physical, limited things like light or air and heat or water can spread everywhere, or as he says, are invasive, light can reach every corner, so to speak, of the earth, or every corner of the universe, figuratively speaking, then that testifies to the unrestrictedness of the creator of the universe. So who is not physical and limited like the creation is. So, and then therefore he must be free of defect. And if he's free of defect, then you can't associate any partner to his creatorship. So that's what I took away from this first part.
Jazakallah khair, both of you, for the comment. It makes sense. So pretty much utilizing the universe, which is actually witnessing to the unlimitedness of the absolute source of existence. And yep, that makes sense. Thank you. Does anybody else want to make a comment or something? We'll just take one more comment if anyone is willing to do that. Otherwise, we are at time, and inshallah, next Saturday we can pick up from insured. Okay. Thank you all for coming in, joining.
First in short or second in short? Sorry.
Second in short.
Second in short. I didn't really catch this first in short, but it's talking about the same thing.
No, the second matter. We'll start from the second matter, necessitating divine unity, unless somebody has something before that.
We didn't go over this in short. There was some stuff here.
Oh, which in short? Oh, you want to go in short?
Yes, because I
Okay.
didn't catch it.
Okay, sure.
So inshallah, we'll pick up from this in short. And okay. So the first in short, inshallah. So thank you.
So on page 20, this one.
First
After
in
the-
short on page 29, correct?
You got it. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. All right. Thank you all for your comments and being here. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save except that which you've taught us. Indeed, you are all knowledgeable, all wise. Wa akhiru da'wahum anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen bi hurmati sir